Hey, welcome back to the Pretty Well podcast. I'm Lisa Smith. Today we're talking with Dr. Natalya Borakowski. And Dr. Natalya is a licensed naturopathic physician who specializes in women's health and cosmetic dermatology. She's the founder of Unveil You and the creator of Emotional Aesthetics, a framework that explores how biology, stress, culture, and self-perception all shape how we experience aging and beauty as women. Her work helps women move from fixing their appearance to understanding and supporting their whole system so that they can age beautifully. Welcome, Dr. Natalya. I'm so excited for our conversation.
I'm so happy you invited me, Lisa. It's going to be a wonderful talk.
So, you are in the business, you're a naturopathic physician, but you're also in the business of helping women with cosmetic dermatology and from an aesthetic standpoint. What brought you on this journey?
Simply put, serendipity. So it's a very interesting story, and I describe it in my book. When my parents and I immigrated from Moscow to United States, I tried different jobs. I did waitressing, and I somehow end up working at the bank, which I truly loved. I really thought I was going to pursue the financial career. And we, living in Scottsdale, Arizona, which is still a little bit of a Wild West, bank branch got robbed at the gunpoint, believe it or not. So, yes, I
No.
was in my early 20s and I was living by myself. So I had so much anxiety. I couldn't sleep. It was really scary for me to go back to work. Honestly, nothing really happened. That man was captured shortly after. But that whole experience, you can imagine for like a young mind. And then living by myself, I was terrified. And as every normal woman, the way we deal with stress, we typically deal with shopping therapy. So I end up in the mall with my best friend, and we were just kind of going through the stores, and I saw Macy's was just opening and they were hiring full positions. So I made this on a whim decision. I'm going to quit banking job because it's too much stress. I cannot deal with this. And
Yeah.
I walked in and I looked at the store manager and I said, I want a position. And she looked at me, she goes, well, where would you like to work? And I said, well, I love shoes. And she looks at me, she goes, you're so pretty, you should be in cosmetics. And I looked at her again and I said, I don't even know how to put mascara on my face. And she says, no, don't worry, we'll teach you. But long forward, I really fall in love with it when I give a woman a mirror and then she just lights up with seeing her reflection of that moment of sort of self-recognition, of that connection with who she truly wants to be. And that passion I started to pursue to different elements. So the first as a makeup artist, and then I really got a passion of trying to find a cure for acne. And now, fast forward, a few decades later, I still don't have cure for acne. Nobody has. It's a very complex disease. I do certainly understand it a lot more. I know how to manage it, but it's brought me into aesthetic medicine. It brought me into dermatology. And as I'm looking decades back into that moment in makeup chair and giving a woman this mirror, I realized the beauty, it's such a powerful thing that every woman deserves to be beautiful because when she truly loves her reflection, she loves herself, then she can share that love with everyone else. So that's really what drives my passion. That's really why I'm digging into psychology right now, because now I'm dealing with not acne, but aging women. And then to really trying to think like, why do we all one way or another experience this midlife beauty crisis? It's typically occurs in our 40s. So the really digging into that psychology and then mind of a middle-aged woman, it's kind of a fascinating journey.
It is a fascinating journey and it's complicated. Midlife is that time of where everything is changing. Our face is changing, our body's changing, our relationships are changing. Some of us are becoming empty nesters or getting close to it. Our parents are aging, our careers, there's so much happening at one time. And it almost feels like when we look in the mirror, it's kind of like the last straw. You look in the mirror and you go, and look at that, and look at that. What is happening? It's just,
Right.
it can be a little overwhelming. And then I do think as women, we then tend to shove it down and we're like, just get, I have stuff to do. Like I can't sit here and just grieve this, that I'm changing. And so we just get on with it and we might say, oh, I'll just make a Botox appointment or I'll
Mhm.
get some new face care, a whole new system or whatever. But one of the things that you talk about is mirror anxiety. Let's talk
Mhm.
about what that is,
Well,
what you found to be the roots of that.
well, essentially, it's exactly what you just described. The women typically in their mid 40s, as we're going through this biggest tornado of our life called perimenopause, we're starting to experience this moment of self not recognition because our brain is very fascinating. Our brain is a little bit conservative, and I wouldn't even call it lazy, because it captures the image of you someplace in like late 20s, early 30s. It's your identity sort of crystallizes. And then when you're looking at the familiar mirrors, like a mirror in your bathroom, your brain reflects at you that familiar image. So the subtle little changes, because our body is not static, right? We continue to evolve because it's a biological tissue. So things oxidize, shift, and then your brain is completely oblivious of this because it's going to be very difficult, very challenging for your brain to update your identity, update your reflection every single day. So it's sort of like reserving energy, if you will. But then something happens. It could be something like you caught the glimpse of your image on some kind of like a random mirror or reflection of somebody's car or like a window or something. It's essentially a strange settings that you're not familiar with. And you might at first brush it off and say, oh, it was a bad lighting. I was just tired. But that lingering thought of the moment I didn't recognize yourself tend to stick with you. And then it starts that very predictable change of events that happens to all of us, sometimes really fast, but sometimes it kind of like sticks with us for days, months, years. It's that moment that, okay, first, what happens? How do I fix it? That's when women start to run for Botox. And then that moment of grief and despair, and then internal alarms that I am not what I am. Because the fascinating thing is, our faces, they're not just faces, they have so much societal image and power linked to it because it's for us, for humans, we are primates that's so connected to our facial expressions. So we read other people's mood, their social status, their even profession, sometimes from the expressions of the face. So of course, if you look at your face as sort of like business card, if you will, and then all of a sudden you don't recognize that business card, it's disturbing. And that's why this anxiety with the mirror relationship starts. So unless you recognize that those changes are normal and now you're upgrading into a new identity and you kind of work through those elements, that becomes the chase for youth that is unachievable, and it potentially can lead you into some problems that maybe you overfill your face, maybe you freeze your face, maybe you do plastic surgery prematurely, or whatever the other irrational decisions.
That is fascinating. That makes so much sense. Our brain freezes that image from our late 20s. That's true. How many times have you talked to someone or thought yourself, I still feel like I'm in my late 20s or my early 30s or whatever that point in time is? So you're right. And then sometimes it's a photograph you look at and you're like, oh my gosh, like,
Right.
how did
Right.
that happen? What is happening?
Or Zoom, when
Yes.
COVID happened and so many people spent so much time on Zoom, it was a gigantic boom of aesthetic medicine. And that's actually was the beginning of me start to questioning this. Whoa, 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 there's a pattern. What is happening? And that's when I start digging and learning about this. I discovered this science called anthropology. I actually thought it was a clothing store, but it's actually science that studies how our image, our face is reflected in cultures. Why do we have beauty standards to begin with? It's quite fascinating, I tell you.
From the anthropologic standpoint, what are the benefits of having beauty standards? Why is that even a thing?
Well, let's think about it like hundreds, maybe thousands of years ago, when people in general lived in tribes. Obviously, women were praised for looking young because that means they were fertile and they can have a healthy child. So when a tribe would praise certain woman, they will praise her for having sort of beauty standards. And then we know it's different from every culture, from every generation, from every century. Beauty standards shift. Why? Because the culture assumes that this trait, whatever that is the sign of fertility, vitality, and then equal beauty. So that's why our modern society right now, Western society, is obsessed with youth because obviously youthful women are more fertile. So that's really comes to all biological drive of propagating our time on earth and continue humanity.
Let's talk about another area that is your area of expertise, emotional aesthetics.
So emotional aesthetics, it's kind of like an interesting blend of aesthetic medicine, psychology, and then of course there's that blend of anthropology and overall our cultural norms that demand women to be someone she's not.
Mhm.
And when I was writing my book, essentially I realized what I'm doing. I'm presenting sort of arc. It's a story of aging, explaining women why do we struggle with aging, why we have the term anti-aging to begin with, why we starting this war with the age in the first place. Because age, you cannot avoid that. It's a normal biological transition, right? We all go into age. And then the next part of it is biology of beauty. The biology is me as a physician trying to explain as simple as possible forms of what's happening to female bodies as we transition through decades of our life. Because I believe when a woman is armed with knowledge, when she truly understands what's biologically happening, the processes in her body, it's so much easier for her to deeply connect, understand, embrace, and love every single process that happens to her, from hot flashes to mood swings to wrinkles. If you understand the reasoning, the foundation behind it, then it's not necessarily you have to do something for it or fix it. The first thing you do, you accept it and then you support it. And you support it in the best possible way by feeding your body the best possible things. And that's where the final arc for emotional aesthetics, it's what I call a self-trust. And you cannot cultivate that self-trust until you fully understand what is happening. Because
Mm.
unfortunately, in our modern society, we're so overwhelmed with information, especially right now with AI. Everybody's self-proclaimed wellness guru or self-proclaimed doctor. They already come in, they diagnose themselves, they're giving you a treatment plan, and you're trying to tell, well, no, that's not going to work. This is the treatment plan. And yet they Google something else and tell you, no, but my friend told me to do this.
Yeah.
So we live in this very overwhelming, informative society. But at the same time, there's just so much noise. So
Mm.
I really believe if the woman gets that very well researched scientific information and applies to herself and then make educational choices about her health, how she wants to age, and to what I call it the aging on your own terms, it gives her the power to age the way she wants to. Either it's with aesthetic medicine or without. It becomes her choice because she understands what each tool can offer.
That's beautiful. We, as women, oh gosh, there's so much we're raised with, um, the expectation that we will be people pleasers and that we will be perfect and beautiful and smart and ambitious, yet soft and nurturing. Like it is impossible. And so
Mhm.
when we hit this point and we start to realize that we can't keep all the plates spinning because age is, it's like the law of gravity, it's coming. But I love that you dig deeper instead of saying, let's put a band-aid on it. There's injectables and cosmetic procedures, they're not right or wrong. They're
No,
individual decisions, no judgment either way. But to be able to be informed at a deeper level, a holistic root cause level, and say, let's first understand what are you thinking about yourself? Because no matter what we do externally, if we don't address internal, it's not going to fix what you're looking to fix.
absolutely right. And I always trying to teach everyone who come first to aesthetic medicine to tell them those are just medical tools. They don't have charge. They don't have good or bad about them. They're just tools. But when you have a cultural fear or shame driving your decisions, that's when you run into problems. Because unfortunately, think about all the advertisements we have in the beauty industry, it's typically driven by those two very powerful emotions. It's either anxiety, because you're feeling like you're running out of time, you need to fix it, or shame. Oh my gosh, look at you. You got dark circles, you have dry skin. So, those two very powerful things, they're certainly necessary because let's admit we are living in capitalistic society. It's everything driven by money. Everybody loves money. But at the same time, when woman understands those are just tools, and then she takes it as a self-supportive choice, the
Mhm.
choice that supports the way that she wants to age. And then again, it just comes from that self-trust. And that takes time. It takes time to reconnect with you. Like one of the things I say too, because of being a naturopathic physician, I treat body and soul, right? So we do address that internal state of what is going on through a patient's mind, like what stage of life they are. Are they ready to make some kind of a medical decisions? So because of that so important to me, I try to get that woman to answer the ultimate question, why? Why do you want this procedure today? And if the procedure is driven by, oh my gosh, I need to fix this, I'm going on vacation tomorrow, that's probably a wrong time to do that.
Mm.
Because again, those are medical decisions. They can potentially have complications, like getting a bruise. I mean, just don't do anything very irrational because
Mm.
often you end up doing something that's too much or not for you.
Yes. And there's a part of every one of us. It's like, I don't want to be marginalized. I don't want to disappear. We're used to being in our 20s and we have presence. People see us and we recognize that they see us. But as we get older, we feel like we get kind of invisible. I get it when I see something that's overdone and you're like, ah, there's such a deeper, how do you help women take a pause and dig a little deeper to figure that out?
Ultimately, you know how it is. It's typically starts with the patient if the patient's ready for this conversation. The best I can do if I have a patient who is in that state of panic, I cannot take her out of this. But I can at least simply say, I don't believe the treatment today is the right choice for you because, and I always repeat the same phrase, I refuse to mangle your beautiful face. Because what we're going to do is not going to deliver the results you're looking for. It's going to make it worse. And some women listen. I had women angrily storm out of my office. I had my husband, who is basically like a financial side of our business, sometimes roll his eyes and say, can you just stop rejecting patients? It takes money, effort to bring the patient into your chair. But I I just honestly I refuse that. I love sleeping comfortably and being happy in my position and my job and feeling like I've done everything possible as a woman to make another woman to feel beautiful and empowered. And if I feel like whatever choices I make, whatever treatments I do for her don't deliver that, I wouldn't do it. Even if she's angry with me, I wouldn't do it. So again, I always start with what I call mirror exercise. I'll give her a mirror, and of course, I ask what troubles you. And then when she starts piecing herself apart and just saying, this is terrible, this is horrible, this is already a red flag. And I'm like, all right, let's slow down. Let's actually look about good things. You have a healthy skin. I see you taking care of this. You don't have that. All right, now let's laser focus on one problem. Just tell me what really jumps out of you, makes you so sad when you look at your reflection. Then we'll talk about options if there is a true medical indications to do that. And then I ask her a question, why? Why now? Why today?
Mm-hmm.
I always trying to educate and explain skin is not a cosmetic surface. This is a living organ. Let's treat it as a living organ. Let's ask your skin, what does your skin need? And then let's talk as a functional physician, as you are, a functional practitioner, about pillars of health. This is to me four, and I don't know if you agree with me, Lisa, or not. I say nutrition, management of stress, because obviously we cannot avoid stress, but we can certainly control how we absorb the stress and what we do with this. Sleep, and especially in your perimenopause, you have to protect your sleep like your life depends on it, because it really does. And
Mm-hmm.
then the last one is movement. I hate to say word exercise because most 40 plus women are completely allergic to the word exercise. So I always say movement. And movement should bring a woman joy. So if you haven't found a form of movement, like you go into the gym and it gives you a heart attack and you hate everything about it, don't go there. Find some kind of Pilates studio, yoga studio. Find a community of other women that enjoy this type of movement. Maybe you like dancing. Maybe you like doing lunges when you vacuum in your house, whatever that is. But you have to do it every day because if your body is not moving, guess what? Your skin is not going to look good. Simple as that.
I agree with you 1,000%. Those four pillars are absolutely necessary. What are the daily choices you see women making, probably unconsciously, that impact how we age?
One of the major pitfalls we typically run into in our 40s, we wear so many hats by the time we're 40 something. We typically mothers, we're wives, we're caregivers to our parents. We typically have more leading management positions in our jobs. So we have so many responsibilities. And since we were brought up as good girls that are caregivers, we
Yeah.
forget who you are and what you need. So sleep usually the first thing that starts to suffer. And then nutrition. How many of us are guilty running out the door with only maybe coffee at hand or stopping at Starbucks and getting coffee and not feeding your body at all? And
Right.
then just saying like, oh, I'm not that hungry. Your body is hungry. You might be suppressing your hunger because you're stressed, because you didn't sleep enough, but your body is hungry. Your skin is hungry. It needs nutrients. It needs the vitamin C to make that collagen. I mean, that's the biggest problems what I see because we don't pause enough for just 3 minutes and
Mm.
then to give our body what it needs, starting the first thing in the morning.
When you think about that, and we're not necessarily giving ourselves space and time to do the foundational pieces because we think, I'm okay, I'm fine, I'll get to it when I get to it, which is never or much later
Mhm,
than it should because we're doing all the other
mhm,
things. But then we're quick to say, oh my gosh, but it's showing now on my face. So I got to do a
mhm.
quick fix when, if we get the foundational pieces in, the quick fixes aren't necessarily wrong, but they can be integrated as opposed to just the only solution.
Of course, cosmetic products, all those serums, eye creams, whatever we use to try to make ourselves look better, a little highlighter, a little concealer there, they're all great. And
Yes.
then sometimes it is necessary. Sometimes you have a very loaded week and you might just not being able to spend time for yourself. But as for every day, we need to drop this whole conditioning we got in our childhood that taking care of yourself is selfish because it's not. Because if you are a caregiver, like we'll say you are a Tesla car, don't you need to charge yourself before you go for a long trip?
Yes.
Like, come on.
Exactly. And we hear it over and over again. It's such an overused illustration, but when you're on an airplane and they say, put your oxygen on first
Yes,
before your child's, that's not selfish. That's so you don't die. So you can take
100%.
care
You
of.
know, I actually stopped using it because people just roll their eyes, they're immune to it. So I started using Tesla.
I
Since
like
Tesla is
to
like super,
notice
super
that
popular right now, I'm like, don't you need to charge your Tesla first? Your battery will die.
much more current. So if you are a Tesla, you're going to take really good care of that thing. You're not going to run
Yes.
the wheels off of it. And doing a car wash when you haven't changed the oil, filled it with gas, and all the other things, the car wash doesn't matter if it's sitting in the driveway not working.
Brilliant analogy, Lisa. Brilliant analogy. And I actually do use that. I sometimes when we talk about the internal health and we start like talking about diet and women women typically very receptive about diet. But the way we always look at the diet as a sort of a temporarily yo-yo solution. Oh, I'm gonna slim for bikini season. So now I'm gonna go on a juice cleanse. Make me clench when they say that. Like, first of all, juice cleanse is terrible.
No.
Ultimately it's everyday decisions that you do. So again, if you are a luxury car, because we are, every single one of us, giving this beautiful gift of this beautiful feminine gorgeous body, then treat it like a Ferrari. Don't put unleaded gas in there.
We're going to take this analogy a little farther. You just said don't put unleaded gas in there. Fuel for our face and our body is non-negotiable. And I've learned that over the years. I have a 22-year-old daughter, and so she's always running. She's in her new job and running. And I always talk to her about the importance of protein, 3 installments a day. You got to get the logs on the fire to keep the
Mhm,
fire running. You can't run
mhm,
on
mhm,
kindling, which is carbohydrates. Because in my 20s, Dr. Natalia, I would grab a cup of coffee, I would grab
Mhm.
a muffin, and out the door I'd go. And within a few hours, I'd be on fumes, literally. I would be
Mhm.
dragging myself through the day. But if you get those right installments in, it's not ever a diet. It's not ever temporary. It's what does my body need? And if I give it to it, my body is brilliantly designed to have energy all day and beyond. And then for my skin to glow and for me to age gracefully and all of the other pieces.
You are so right. Yes, yes. And then speaking of protein, because again, it's such a overused statement because everybody talks about women need to get more protein because the reality, yes, you're right. We typically don't get enough protein. Unlike men, most of us don't really like eating meat because
Right?
our body is very fascinating. Our colon is actually longer than male colon. So intuitively, women typically crave more fiber because we need more fiber to push that meat through, right? We're not the carnivores with a really short colon.
Yeah,
But
that's interesting.
beyond, we all talk about the skin and collagen, right? The collagen powders are really popular. So when women asking me, oh, should I take my collagen powder? And I said, well, if you don't eat any protein in the day, at least get the collagen powder in your coffee. Fine. But
Yeah,
it's expensive supplement. How about you start with a bone broth? There's all your collagen powder right there, and it's self homemade, has a lot more antioxidants because then you can make things like a fava broth, for example, add things like cinnamon, anise, all those other beautiful herbs which do so many other anti-inflammatory things, like cinnamon, for example, helping you to manage your sugar spikes. So if you have that sugary coffee and then you did a bone broth with that fava broth, essentially, that's what has cinnamon stick in it, then here you're giving your body a little nutrients to help to manage that spike if you indulge on Starbucks. But
that's
overall, what is collagen? Collagen is protein. You cannot eat collagen and then put collagen in your face. That's not how it works. You need to have a building blocks from the protein. Either it's a steak or bone broth or fish, but then you also need to make sure you take care of your skin externally. So you do self massages, improve blood flow to it, and then the skin responds. And look at you, you're in your 50 something and you still don't have any wrinkles, Botox or not.
thank you. It's so interesting. And you're right. I love the analogy of protein. I've had to learn it the hard way myself. And then once I learned it, then for years I taught weight loss. And when people got that protein in, their cravings went away. They literally went away because they weren't running on carbs all day. But when they
Yeah.
got the right amount of protein in, weight began to stabilize, energy came back so much. But just to look at it simply, we get tired of hearing it over and over. Like you
Yeah.
said, if we can picture that protein is like a Lego structure. Like I made something out of Legos and it's already put together. It's a really cool structure. It looks like a steak or a piece of
Mhm.
chicken or fish.
Yeah.
And then I ate it and it broke into all the Lego pieces. Then they
Mhm.
restructured into new Lego pieces, which are the proteins that our body uses to build the collagen.
Precisely.
And once people see that, I have often found that they're like, oh, I get it. It's just not someone telling me to do more of something. I can now see why that is so valuable and beneficial.
Hmm.
We've talked about the four pillars: stress management,
Hmm.
nutrition, which would also include hydration,
Of
rest,
course.
activity, movement. Now, what about externally? What do you like people to do at home that helps to further what they're trying to do from an anti-aging standpoint?
Well, the external solutions are a little bit more individual because it depends where a woman is in her state. So, since we're addressing to a woman of 40 something, the question becomes where is she in her hormonal transition? If she's in the early perimenopause, that means her progesterone starts to lower down and her estrogen by default start to rise because they're like a yin yang, they support each other. So
Mhm.
even if your ovaries don't make a lot of estrogen, estrogen just accumulates because progesterone is no longer opposing it.
Mhm.
And with that, there's a different things that start happening to the skin. So one thing with a decrease in progesterone, typically we start to see less microcirculation in the face. That's where things like gua sha, self massages become very helpful. Like learning to do your own lymphatic drainage is a wonderful idea at that point because your body will start holding on to a lot more fluid. And then you can also do like a cupping massage on your abdomen. Actually, massaging your abdomen, it's a wonderful thing. Most women don't like touching their own abdomen, but it's so great because you're improving circulation. And guess what? Flatter bellies, ladies, it's wonderful. Start with your own hands. I like using castor oil. It's a little sticky, but it's also really great anti-inflammatory. And then once you get a little bit more comfortable and brave, then pick up one of those silicone cups and start using that. It's just really great to increase blood flow to the skin, improve skin elasticity, and then improve your circulation as well. And digestion, we come in talking about the abdomen.
Yeah.
As the transition continues, then, like I said, estrogens start to accumulate. At that point, you might notice things like your skin becoming a little bit more sensitive. It will be a good time to revisit everything you're using in your skincare. You might have to switch to things like designed for sensitive skincare, because what high estrogen does, it increases our histamine secretion. And we all know about antihistamines, right? Because when you have high histamine in your mucosa, then you typically get stuffy nose, cough, all the allergy stuff. But in your skin, histamine can produce anything from flushing of the face, dilated capillaries, we call them like rosacea like redness, and then just overall sensitivity to skincare products that worked for you yesterday and might not work for you today. So restructuring your skincare regularly, talking to someone you trust. Hopefully you have a great esthetician who does your facials. Just getting facials a couple times a year is also another great thing, because beyond of good self-care, it's just keeping your skincare on track. And then as you continue to transition, both hormones decline. At this point, you become a hormone deficient. And your body starts to depend on your adrenal glands for main hormonal support. And that's where sleep becomes non-negotiable. It was really important before, but now it's absolutely non-negotiable, because one of the main hormones the adrenal glands produce is cortisol. We all know about cortisol as a hormone of stress, but it's actually normal, healthy hormone. It's a waking hormone. We're supposed to be, as healthy humans, to have a really high cortisol in the morning as a natural cup of coffee, and then it slowly declines. I always tell women, just remember your children, like when they're young, you know how they spring out of bed, they're just excited, they want to play, and then by the afternoon, they want to take a nap, because guess what? Their cortisol is dropping. And by the time it's evening time, they will pass out before you even do anything. They just like a little puppy can fall asleep right in the middle of the playground, right? So that cortisol is out, and then melatonin kicks in. Why it's important post-menopause? Because adrenals also start to secrete a lot of sex hormones. They have been doing it before, but now your body is mainly dependent on it. So if you drive yourself to the ground, if you're burning your candlesticks from both ends because you're working at night, you're staring at the blue screens at night, you have insomnia, then your rest of the body starts to struggle because you don't have that sex hormone support that comes from your adrenals. Adrenals are too busy producing cortisol. And then your skin, as a result, will start to suffer because you need those hormones to protect collagen production, to protect the hydration of the skin. They do so many other anti-aging things for our complexion.
You just gave us a master class, and that whole thing. I'm going to point out three really important things that I pulled out of what you just said, and truly really rich. First of all, abdominal massage. Does that help skin all over the body? Does
It does.
I had no idea. That's amazing.
Yes.
So it helps everything because you're improving
Mhm.
circulation and lymph flow. Is that why?
Think about it, the concentration of your immune cells, your lymphatic cells, and your nervous cells as well. It's all in your abdomen. So
Right.
if we are cultivating that glow, the glow also comes from that internal peace. So when you do self massages and you're triggering your vagus nerves, which that rest and digest, it's a great thing. Then the rested, happy woman glows in a different kind of way. And
You're
it all comes from that really subtle self rituals. And again, I don't want to tell the wrong message to our listeners so they all do abdominal massages every day. It might not work for some women. I don't know. Maybe some women have very sensitive abdomen. It feels painful. Maybe it's not for her. The idea is you develop your own self ritual that you enjoy and then you love and you look forward to. Either it's every morning or every night, timing, it doesn't matter. But when you give yourself that repeated moments of self care, you're gonna glow on a different kind of level.
That's so valuable. That could be anything. I love the abdominal massage though, because that is not only moving lymph, improving circulation, improving vagal tone, the vagus nerve, as you said. It's also with that castor oil, you're accessing so many different things. There could be some overflow to your liver, internal
Mhm.
organs. There's so much there.
Yeah.
And what you mentioned about the self-care piece, oh gosh, this is where I have been this year. This year I've really focused a lot on stillness and
Mhm.
listening to what my body is saying, which is the first time ever in all my years.
Mhm.
There's a different calm that carries you through your day when you put that first. So I love the abdominal massage. I love the castor oil, even though it is sticky and kind of goopy, but it's amazing. And then you mentioned histamine, and you mentioned considering a sensitive skin line or products for what you're using. But internally, what do you like to do to mitigate overproduction of histamine? Because we do tend to get more sensitive to foods. We tend to maybe
Mhm.
get some eczema, some gut reactions where we would
Yes.
like a PPI, but we start to see funny little skin things. So, what do
Yeah.
you like internally for people to deal with a histamine overload?
Well, first, it's really easy to just look up the list of histamine-rich foods, histamine-induced foods. Unfortunately, there's a lots of wonderful foods there, like avocados and strawberries on the list of histamine-rich foods.
Yes.
So if you are at that state of estrogen dominance, unfortunately, you have to avoid those foods temporarily
Mm.
until your body stabilizes because the body is transitioning. It will change. The estrogen will decline unless you're doing a hormone replacement therapy. It's a different story. But essentially, if we're talking about the natural state of perimenopausal transition, this state of a histamine reactions is temporary. It can last anywhere between a year to maybe 5 years, but it's just when you support your body in the best possible way. A lot of preserved foods, like smoked foods, bacon, for example, it's also on a list of histamine-rich foods. I personally love smoked fish, so that's also the histamine-rich foods. So obviously alcohol, it's a very top of the list of histamine rich foods. But we can go on. But if you can support your body by avoiding those compounds or just very minimally taking those compounds, that's already a great start. I'm a big fan of botanical medicine because as a naturopathic physician, we really spend a lot of time learning botanicals, like in the way typical doctors learn pharmacy. There is an herb very popular in Russia because it's kind of grows like a weed. It's a stinging nettle.
Oh, yeah.
So that one is a natural antihistamine. So you can actually get a tincture of a stinging nettle and then start taking it really early in a seasonal allergies time, or while you're dealing with that estrogen influx, as we talked about, stinging nettle is the good way to manage the histamine. And then as for the supplement, the quercetin has a really high support for the histamine production. So if you're looking for different supplements that have that histamine decrease, quercetin is the good option. And
Mm.
then the very last thing, that for people who really have very aggressive histamine responses and they rely on antihistamine, there are actually supplements that have enzyme called DAO, which is the enzyme that breaks down our histamine in our digestive tract. But that also brings me to the whole another thing, why the abdominal massages and digestion is so important. Because when you have a healthy digestion, you have a really good production of DAO. It comes from your small intestine. So if you have problems with either it's IBS or constipation or just overall sensitive stomach, I would start there.
So if people, women and men too, are starting to see more of that flushed rosacea look and broken capillaries and just having some skin issues along the lines of what we're talking about, those are wonderful recommendations. But you're right, it often starts with gut dysbiosis and leaky gut.
Mhm.
So taking a look at gut health, we can keep going down and down and
Yes, yes.
and getting to the real roots, but that's really helpful too.
But that's why functional doctors, we always say the health starts with the gut because it truly is.
Yes.
There's so many things happening in our digestive system. Even when we're talking about mood, a lot of times women in their perimenopause struggle with mood swings, guess what? Majority of your serotonin lives in your digestive system.
Right. It's made there. If the gut's off, the brain has to be off. It's
Yeah.
not along those same lines. You mentioned sleep and the absolute critical nature of sleep. And I love that you took it even deeper, not just you need your sleep, but you need your sleep because if you're not getting it, you're overproducing cortisol. And then that leads to what we know as the pregnenolone steal, which so
Correct.
that's what you're referring to. And I love that
Yes.
you brought that in because that's why I said this is a master class. You are going deep on these answers. Guys, as you're listening, what that means is when your body is making more cortisol, your main stress hormone, there aren't enough raw materials to make your estrogen and progesterone when your adrenals are carrying that load. So
100%.
sleep is the number one thing to start to normalize your cortisol pattern. Sleep, and then, of course, stress reduction, which is that quiet time. That's why stillness, because cortisol elevated to the point of, something's got to give. And we're all like that at different seasons of life. So, sleep and the ability to be still or do whatever it is that brings you that joy, that self care. So,
Yeah, the one thing that I want to mention about the peace and then just take this moment of stillness. And I will tell you from my own personal example, because I A-type personality, I do a million things in a day. My schedule is overloaded. So the way I used to approach my own wellness and my own relaxation, it's also a very structural schedule kind of way. It sounds really ridiculous, but relax now, right now, I have a 1 hour, just like preform relaxation, preform wellness.
yeah.
And it took me time to realize I really need to learn to cultivate nothingness. And it's really difficult.
Hmm.
It's so hard. It almost like you're going through drug withdrawal.
Yes.
Just allow yourself that moment of doing nothing. And sometimes tools like meditation, journaling, or drawing could be wonderful because at least you give yourself something to do. Sometimes they could be irritating, sometimes they could be misleading. So, again, it all comes to every woman finding her recipe of stillness and
Yeah.
then expect to feel very uncomfortable when you're first starting there because we've been so demanding to ourselves, to our bodies. We so overloaded our schedule. So when you give yourself that moment of peace, at first it feels like breakup. At
Hmm.
first it feels really torturous. But once you embrace it, when you allow it, and then becomes part of you, it's extremely empowering.
Mm. Such a good point. I will set a timer on my phone. 10 minutes, go now, quiet. Like,
Yeah, we all
I
done that.
really still, and I'm like, that is, well, you just pointed it out. It's actually pretty comical because,
Yeah.
but at least we're trying. I'm type A as well. And, every step is a step in the right direction. You bring up a great point. What are some of the self-care approaches you've seen that actually help women and restore them versus the ones that are quietly draining them? They're thinking, I should do this. I'm supposed to do that. It's
Yeah.
how do we draw that?
How do we break that pattern? Well, it first starts with awareness. Because the reason I recognize it in me, I think it's my mission to tell it to every woman that does exactly the same thing. Because every woman that I've met, we all struggle with allowing ourselves to truly relax. You know, how many times you go into a beautiful, luxurious island vacation and then you spend first day two or so, like trying to figure out what are you doing? How are you relaxing? And you feel you should be doing more.
Yeah.
But when you recognize yourself doing it, and that's when you just let go of the reins. It's
Mm.
almost like allowing yourself to drift, allow your body to submerge into that sensation of being there. And then again, we can use this very overused analogy of being present, but essentially that's really what it's all about. Even if you just sitting there, we'll say you're taking that 10 minutes of stillness. Don't set the alarm. Okay. Don't do that thing on the phone.
Yeah.
But go in some place where you have something joyful to look at. Fortunately, I live in a sunny Arizona, so I can go in the backyard. So I will sit in the backyard. Sometimes I close my eyes, sometimes I'm not. And then I just start observing. And I look at it and I say, oh, there's a beautiful bird right there. Such a pretty song, it's the bird singing. It's I see the sun rising over the mountains. I feel that breath of the air on my skin. And at first it will feel kind of foreign, but that's the unique moments of reconnection with you because you're just present, you in the moment, you're breathing. And then it becomes natural. And then you can start adding other things. Maybe it's abdominal massage, dry brushing. Maybe it's a self massage on your face, whatever pleases you and makes you happy. Don't be afraid to indulge your body because this is what we women are really great at. We intuitively born with this intuition and connection with our bodies, but all that external noise block that. It's like static, so you no longer hear you. But when you learn to cultivate the presence first, then you can start doing all the other steps.
I hear you saying start small, pick one thing that brings you joy. I have seen recommendations that if you go outside, you can just sit for even a short amount of time, but find three things you can hear because we tend to tune, there's so much coming at us at every moment. We only tune and focus on what makes sense right now. But if we sit and we just say, okay, I want to hear three things, and then we wait and identify those and just listen to them. Like you said, it could be this bird. Oh, now there's a totally different bird. Now there's a third one. And then after you hear those, then you say, okay, I want to hear three more things. And as you continue to do that, that brings us out of fight or flight into
Yes.
that rest and digest. I've done it and it feels absolutely wonderful. And you're like, oh my gosh, there's a dog barking in the distance. I would have never even heard that, or a
Mhm.
car on a road that's not even near my house, but I can hear it. It's
Mhm.
really nice.
It's a pretty powerful tool, yeah. Mhm.
Last night I was in a yoga class and see, I'm making progress. The instructor said, and we've all heard this, but it actually hit last night. She said, this is the only moment you are promised right now. It's the only one.
Mhm.
Just even remembering that, that helps with presence, which
Yeah.
again begins the beauty on the inside, beauty from the inside out, which is what you and I are talking about and all about. Before we wrap up, if a woman said, I'm doing all the things, I'm buying the expensive serums, the creams, I'm doing injectables, I'm doing Pilates and yoga because I'm supposed to, or whatever it is, how could she simplify skincare into just a few things that really are important and she feels that they're self-care and that do help the skin, the glow?
So immediately when a woman does too much, the first thing I say, do less. If you go to Pilates or yoga every day and it's a task for you to do, it's a checklist for you to do, and you're truly not necessarily enjoying for doing this, don't go. Skip a day, skip two. Instead, do gentle stretches, do sun salutations in your own backyard instead of being in the studio. Because often what I really see when we're in this constant go, go, go environment, we play what I call wellness performance. Like
Yes.
really ask yourself question, am I performing? Because usually you are. And if you are, then allow yourself to do things just for you. And then cultivate that presence. Cultivate that thing because trust me, nobody in this yoga or Pilates studio cares what kind of leggings you're wearing. Nobody cares what your hair looks like. You care and you think they care, but they don't.
Yeah.
And if you just allow that control go, then there are just some magical things happening. You start listening to your body, and then your body, your skin will tell you if what you're doing is right or wrong. Pause in the mirror and just to kind of like look closely. What does my skin look like? Is it really tight and shiny? You probably over dehydrating it. You might be using too many exfoliating agents. It looks pretty, it has that glass skin look, but ultimately it's not healthy. It's inflamed, it's screaming inside. If you're putting skincare products and they feel kind of tingly, burning on your skin, you're doing too much. You're damaging that skin barrier. And
Mm.
your skin, again, it's not a cosmetic surface, it's a living organ. You need to put it in the environment when it's thriving. Yes, it does need a lipid protection, so it needs some kind of moisturizer. Not all moisturizers are designed for every skin type. So then, if you don't know what your skin type is, go find a professional and ask that question. What is my skin type? Because skin type also changes as you go older. We typically start to produce less oil, we become drier. So, using more oil based products typically better when you get older. Not always. Sometimes women continue having oily skin throughout the entire life, which actually, in my opinion, is very lucky because they age slower. It's drier skin ages faster. But ultimately, do less. Yes, do something for your skin every day, but when you do too much, you learn too many products, often you are giving your body disservice.
That's wonderful. We're always told, well, you need a cleanser and you need a toner. And after your toner, you need a serum. And remember, you need retin-A or some kind of retin-A derivative. And then you should probably put vitamin C on. And on top of that, you should put a water-based moisturizer. And you should probably then put an oil base on top to seal it in. Like that is crazy making. And
Crazy. I
crazy
100%
making.
agree.
Hmm.
Yeah, I think skincare overall should be no more than 3 steps because really
Mm,
that's what your skin needs. It needs cleansing. For most women after 40, you don't need to cleanse your skin twice a day. I don't wash my face with a soap or cleanser in the mornings. I actually want to preserve and seal all the oils that have been secreted during the night. Your skin dehydrates significantly when you sleep. So
mm,
using richer moisturizers is usually great. As for the retinol, very powerful cosmetic ingredient. Does it work for everybody? Absolutely not. If I use retinol on my face, I will burn. I will be red like a scorched person who's been in the sun for 2 hours without sunscreen.
yeah,
So again, it's not the universal recommendation that works for every woman. You need to know what you need.
that's so good. Which means we're telling everyone and ourselves just take a deep breath and exhale.
Yes.
And I also don't wash my face in the morning. I splash it with water. I just found it was drying to over cleanse. So a cleanser. And then what are the 3 steps you like in general? I realize people are bio individual, but cleansing and then what do you like?
If it's at night, the cleansing, obviously, to take off my makeup. And then I use some form of serum and then moisturizer, and that's it. I might do some kind of hydrating mask once a week. I might exfoliate maybe like every 10 days or so, but that's about it. I don't overload my face. I would more so spend time when I'm watching TV with my husband to do self massages to increase that blood flow to my face. I like using little tools. Like I actually have a little device that does vibrational because I tend to clench, I stress with my jaw. So then I will do massages in my jaw to relax the muscle here. So instead of relying on Botox, I kind of like do that self relaxation. And I do love doing gua sha. It's a wonderful way of just kind of keeping muscles of the upper face relaxed because this is where our thinking and concentration comes from. And then we kind of over time start to look angry because we're concentrating too much. So otherwise, I really don't layer too many products. And if we talk about the types of serums, your body, your skin repairs when you sleep. So your serum at night should be something that's more of a supporting collagen production. So if your skin tolerates retinol, that's a perfect time for retinol. If it doesn't, then you add some things like the peptides, collagen stimulating products, stuff like that. And in the morning, it's all about antioxidants. It's all about protection because you're going outside, you're exposed to sun, pollution, dirt, all the gunk that's swimming around us. That's vitamin C comes to play. So then if you're going to use your serum, I will just wash my face with cold water because cold is gold. Cold is good for our skin. And then vitamin C serum, and then my moisturizer with a sunscreen. And here we are.
That's a very simple, doable plan. First of all, and it saves a whole lot of money over all the rest of that stuff. And it's much more zen to be able to do that.
Right. But ultimately, it's so much more easy to do this every day because of women who are given complicated 7 step routine, let's be honest, how long are you going to do this? You
Exactly.
might do it for a month, for two, and then the rest of the time it will just sit there, pretty bottles covered with dust in your bathroom near your sink.
That's exactly right. Tell us how people can work with you.
I do have skincare clinic, but it's in Scottsdale, Arizona. I don't expect anybody to fly to Scottsdale, and there's really no need for that. Ultimately, my biggest passion project I started last year is Unveil You platform. So I developed those digital courses. We're still polishing them up and continue improving them. And my other passion is finishing this book. It's in the editorial stage right now called Emotional Aesthetics. We mentioned it earlier. So hopefully it will be published early summer, maybe late spring. We'll see what my publishers say. But that will be great tutorial for women to helping them understand their body and helping them cultivating that self-trust. It's a difficult task to develop that self-trust, but once you do, once you unlock that intuition again, it's a very powerful state to be in, because that way you become a woman that ages on her own terms. You're no longer going to be persuaded by shiny bottles in Sephora. You making choices that are best for you.
That is excellent. So when that book publishes, you let me know and we'll link that in the show notes too. I will
Yes.
have all the links. Where can people find you?
I am on social media, but only on Instagram. Instagram account, it's unveilyou.life. That's where we do all the inspirational quotes, and I have short little videos, and we essentially talk about what you and I just talk about today. And then I have my personal Instagram account, which is more popular because it's the longest account, Natalya Borakowski. And there, it used to be more so before and afters because I was more so focused on aesthetic skincare part of it. But now I just post my different appearance, the different conferences I go to, teaching things that I do. And then part of it, it's also influential things that I post from Unveil You as well. And then, of course, once the book will be open to pre-sale, the links will be there on social media too. And then you can always go to our website, unveilyou.life, where we have all the courses, and there's some free parts we keep adding to the platform. And there's a bunch of different resources and downloads for women as well.
It's beautiful. I've been to your site and there's a lot there. I will have all of that in the show notes.
Thank you so much, Lisa.
Thanks for joining me today. And guys, thank you for joining us. We loved being with you. I will be back next week. Until then, stay pretty